Okay. Recordings. 2.7.46. Devai Vindatyati Taranti Cha Devamaya Srishudra Huna Sab Shabara Apipapa Jivaha Yadyadbhuta Krama Parayana Shila Shiksha Tiriyag Janapi Kimu Shuta Dharanaye Devai Vidanti Atitaranti Cha Devamaya Srishudrahuna Shabara Apipapa Jivaha Yadyadbhuta Krama Parayana Shila Shikshas Tiriyag Janapi Kimu Shuta Dharanaye. Surrendered souls, even from groups leading simple lives, they, such people, why undoubtedly, Vidanti, do know, Atitaranti, surpass, cha also, Devamayam, the covering energy of the Lord, Stri, such as women, Shudra, the labor class of men, Puna, the Mountaineers, Shabara, the Siberians, or those lower than the Shudras, Api, although Papa Jivaham, sinful living beings, Yadi provided Adbhuta Krama, one whose acts are so wonderful, Parayana, those who are devotees, Sheela, behavior, Shiksha, trained by Tidiyak Janaha, even those who are not human beings, Api also, Kim what, who, to speak of, Shutta Dharana, those who have taken to the idea of the Lord by hearing about him, ye those. Now, about the surrendered souls have been given. Now, those who have led sinful life, the groups leading sinful lives, such as women, labor class, the mountains. When we talk of women, somebody asked the Prabhupada, which type of women? The women, and then many of them looked at Malti Mataji and were laughing intentionally. Oh, women are coming in Papa Yonis. She just said, I'm not the body, I'm soul. When we say women, that means those ignorant people who identify themselves with the body. It's not that all women come in the same category. When a woman identifies herself as a mother, the highest relationship in this world is the motherly care. And there are ladies who are too much to sense gratification. That has been spoken here. That is why sinful lives, labor class, mountaineering, Siberians, birds, beasts, can also know about the signs of Godhead and become liberated from the clutches of the illusionary energy by surrendering unto the pure devotees of the Lord and by following in their footsteps in devotional service. So devotional service is never attained by directly serving Krishna. Devotional service is attained by serving the spiritual master, the devotees. Very important. Morning also class we had this. By serving Nityananda Prabhu, one gets the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By serving one's Guru, by serving the devotees of Krishna, one gets pure devotional service. Devotional service is not so easy to be understood. Just serve your Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, your God brothers, God sisters. Just serve the devotees. Love the devotees so much. It is the family of devotees. When we love the devotees, automatically Krishna's mercy is bestowed onto that person. Here's how it is given here. Following in their footsteps in devotional service. Now here, which class of devotee has been given? Pure devotees. That is Madhyamadhikari, Uttamadhikari, whose footsteps can be followed. Now Kanishtadhikari, yes, pay respect. There are three classes of people who are adhikaris, Kanishta, Madhyama and Uttama. So Kanishta devotee always have respect. Because at least he has come in devotional service. At least he has come in devotional service. Kanishta, Madhyama, he knows the Shastras. Now he finds a difference between devotees, non-devotees. But Uttamadhikari is always compassionate to everyone. Okay? Aruna, read.
Text 46. ते वै विदन्त्यतितरन्ति च देवमायाम् श्रीशूद्रहूणशबरा अपि पापजीवाः यत्तद्भुतक्रमपरायणशीलशिक्षा स्तिर्यग्जना अपि किमो श्रुतधारणाये. Lord Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sometimes, okay, translation. Even from the groups leading simple lives, such as women, the labor class, the mountaineers, or even the birds and the beasts, can also know about the science of God and become liberated from the clutches of the illusory energy by surrendering unto the pure devotees of the Lord and by following their footsteps in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada. There are insights as to how one can surrender
Your
unto
voice
the
is not
Supreme
heard
Lord.
properly.
The Bhagavad.
I think you're not in range, Aruna. Okay, Bindu, read. Bindu, read from your... Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Purport. Sometimes there are inquiries as to how one can surrender unto the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 18.66, the Lord asked Arjuna to surrender unto him, and therefore persons unwilling to do so question where God is and to whom they should surrender. The answer to such questions or inquiries is given herein very properly. The personality of Godhead may not be present before one's eyes, but if one is sincere in wanting such guidance, the Lord will send a bona fide person who can guide one properly back home, back to Godhead. There is no need of material qualifications for making progress on the path of spiritual realization. In the material world, when one accepts some particular type of service, he is required to possess some particular type of qualification also. Without this, one is unfit for such service. But in the devotional service of the Lord, the only qualification required is surrender. Surrendering oneself is in one's own hands. If one likes, he can surrender immediately, without delay, and that begins his spiritual life. The bona fide representative of Lord is as good as God himself, or in other words, the loving representative of the Lord is more kind and more easy to approach. A sinful soul cannot approach the Lord directly, but such a sinful man can very easily approach a pure devotee of the Lord. If one agrees to put himself under the guidance of such a devotee of the Lord, he can also understand the signs of God and can also become like that transcendental pure devotee of the Lord and thus get his liberation back to Godhead, back home for eternal happiness. So, realization of the signs of Godhead and relief from the unnecessary, useless struggle for existence are not at all difficult for the willing candidate, but they are very difficult for persons who are not surrendered souls, but only simple, profitless speculators. Hare Krishna.
Simple, profitless speculators. What is the meaning of profitless? They're not going to gain anything because they're trying to do devotional service alone. Devotional service cannot be practiced alone. It has to be practiced under the guidance. Shashvat prashantamabhayam pratibodhamatram shuddham samam sadasatah paramatmatattvam shabdo nayatra purukarakavan kriyartho maya paraityaabhimukhe cha vilanjamana tadvai padam bhagavata paramasya punso brahmeti yad vidurajastra sukham vishokam. Big verse. Shashvat, eternal. Prashantam, without disturbance, abhayam, without fear, pratibodha matram, a consciousness opposed to the material counterpart, shuddham, uncontaminated, samam, without distinction, sat asataha, of the cause and effect, paramatma tattvam, the principle of primeval cause, shabdaha, speculative sound, na not, yatra where there is, puru karakavan, resulting in fruitive action, kriya arthaha, for the matter of sacrifice, maya illusion, paraiti flies away, abhimukhe in front of, cha also, vilajamana, being ashamed of, that, why is certainly, padam, ultimate face, bhagavataha, of the personality of God, paramasyaha, of the supreme, pumsa, of the person, Brahma, the absolute, iti thus, yat which viduhu, known as ajasra, unlimited, sukham, happiness, vishokam, without grief. Translation goes like this. What is realized as the absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss without grief. That is certainly the ultimate phase of the supreme enjoyer, the personality of Godhead. He is the eternally void of all disturbances and fearless. He is complete consciousness as opposed to matter, uncontaminated and without distinction. He is the principal primeval cause of all causes and effects, in whom there is no sacrifice for fruitive activities, in whom the illusory energy does not stand. Now about Lord's glories have been spoken, that how Lord is absolute Brahman, and then his ultimate face of supreme enjoy. He is the only enjoyer. That is why he is Bhagavan. He is the Param Purushaha. Purusha means he is the only enjoyer. And there is no question of fearlessness or disturbances for Lord. And in this way, his complete consciousness as opposed to matter, all these things have been given. So Prabhupada writes about each and every quality, a very nice way. Okay, Sanjay Prabhu, can you read? Or if you are in office.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, read.
Shashvat prashantam bhayam pratibodha matram shuddham samam sadasat paramatmam tattvam shabdo na yatra purukar kavan kriyartho maya paritya bhimukhe cha vilajamana tadvai padam bhagavata paramasya pumso brahmeti yad viturajastra sukham vishokam. Translation. What is realized as the absolute Brahman is full of unlimited bliss without grief. That is certainly the ultimate phase of the supreme enjoyer, the personality of Godhead. He is eternally void of all disturbances and fearless. He is complete consciousness as opposed to matter, uncontaminated and without distinctions. He is the principal primeval cause of all causes and effects, in whom there is no sacrifice for fruitive activities, and in whom the illusory energy does not stand. Purport. The supreme enjoyer.
Before the purport, there is a
Yes.
verse in Ishopanishad also. Ishopanishad verse 8 speaks about it. Sapariga chukram makayam avranam masnaviram shuddham apapa vittam Kabir Manishi Paribhu Swayambhu Yatha Tattvorthan Dada Shashvatibhya Samapya. How Lord is a person, sir, that person, how is he? He is completely omnipotent. He knows everything. At the same time, he has no material body. He has no material vein, no material reproach. He is completely Shuddham, pure. And Apapa Vidham, there is no question of any Papa. All these things have been spoken, that how Lord is self-sufficient, Swayambhu. He is self-sufficient. And in this way, Lord's every activity is wonderful. And Lord fulfills everyone's desire. But Lord has no material desires, no material hankerings. In fact, he is the primary cause of all the causes and effects. Okay, now read the puppet.
The supreme enjoyer, the personality of Godhead, is the supreme Brahman or the summum bonum because of his being the supreme cause of all causes. The conception of impersonal Brahman realization is the first step due to his distinction from the illusory conception of material existence. In other words, impersonal Brahman is a feature of the absolute distinct from the material variegatedness, just as light is a conception distinct from its counterpart, darkness. But the light has its variegatedness, which is seen by those who further advance in the light, and thus the ultimate realization of Brahman is the source of Brahman light, the supreme personality of Godhead, the summum bonum or the ultimate source of everything. Therefore, meeting the personality of Godhead includes the realization of the impersonal Brahman as realized at first in contrast with material inebriety. The personality of Godhead is the third step of Brahman realization. As explained in the first canto, one must understand all three features of the Absolute, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Pratibodha Matram is just the opposite conception of material existence. In matter, there are material miseries, and thus in the first realization of Brahman, there is the negation of such material inebrities, and there is a feeling of eternal existence distinct from the pangs of birth and death, disease and old age. That is the primary conception of impersonal Brahman. The Supreme Lord is the supreme soul of everything, and therefore, in the supreme conception, affection is realized. The conception of affection is due to the relationship of soul to soul. A father is affectionate to his son because there is some relationship of nearness between the son and the father. But that sort of affection in the material world is full of inebriety. When the personality of Godhead is met, the fullness of affection becomes manifested because of the reality of the affectionate relationship. He is not the object of affection by material tinges of body and mind, but he is the full, naked, uncontaminated object of affection for all living entities because he is the super soul or Paramatma within everyone's heart. In the liberated state of affairs, the full-fledged affection for the Lord is awakened. As such, there is an unlimited flow of everlasting happiness without the fear of its being broken, as we have experienced here in the material world. The relationship with the Lord is never broken. Thus, there is no grief and no fear. Such happiness is inexplicable by words, and there can be no attempt to generate such happiness by fruitive activities, by arrangements and sacrifices. But we must also know that happiness, unbroken happiness, exchanged with the Supreme Person, the personality of Godhead, as described in this verse, transcends the impersonal conception of the Upanishads. In the Upanishads, the description is more or less negation of the material conception of things. But this is not denial of the transcendental senses of the Supreme Lord. Herein, also the same is affirmed in the statements about the material elements. They are all transcendental, free from all contamination of material identification. And also the liberated souls are not devoid of senses. Otherwise, there cannot be any reciprocation of unhampered spiritual happiness exchanged between them in spontaneous unbroken joy. All the senses, both of the Lord and of the devotees, are without material contamination. They are so because they are beyond the material cause and effects, as clearly mentioned herein. Sad Asat Param. The illusory material energy cannot work there, being ashamed before the Lord and his transcendental devotees. In the material world, the sense activities are not without grief, but here it is clearly said that the senses of the Lord and the devotees are without any grief. There is a distinct difference between the material and spiritual senses.
Yes.
And one should understand it without denying the spiritual senses because of a material conception. The senses in the material world are surcharged with material ignorance. In every way, the authorities have recommended purification of the senses from the material conception. In the material world, the senses are manipulated for individual and personal satisfaction, whereas in the spiritual world, the senses are properly used for the purpose for which they were originally meant, namely the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Such sensual activities are natural, and therefore sense gratification there is uninterrupted and unbroken by material contamination, because the senses are spiritually purified. And such satisfaction of the senses is equally shared by the transcendental reciprocators. Since the activities are unlimited and constantly increasing, there is no scope for material attempts or artificial arrangements. Such happiness of transcendental quality is called Brahma Sokhyam, which will be clearly described in the 5th canto. Hare
Brahma
Krishna
Sokhyam.
Mataji.
The most spiritual happiness, the spiritual happiness is in first identifying that I am not the body, I am soul, I am individual. That is how Krishna starts the individuality of the soul. When Krishna starts the Sankhya philosophy, if you see in Bhagavad Gita 2.11 onwards to 30th, Krishna started with first identifying ourselves as an individual soul. Natveva aham jatu nasam name janavipa. Nachevana bhavishama sarve vayam apatakaram. There was not a time when you, I, and other kings were existing, or now they are existing. There was not a time they were never existing. That means they are existing. In future also they will exist. Individuality of the soul has always been maintained. There is a distinct relationship with every soul and Krishna. Every soul has a relationship with Krishna. Forgetfulness of our relationship, our constitutional position, that is making us fall in this material life or come in this illusory energy. Forgetfulness of Krishna. So that is how he had said, Sad Asadaparam. Sad Asadaparam. Lord is beyond material contamination. Sad Asad. This cause and effect, whatever effect we see, even getting a body is also effect, but there is a cause behind it. But in your Lord is the supreme cause for all the causes. Okay. So this verse speaks about Brahma Saukhyam. This verse speaks about Paribodha Matram, Brahma Saukhyam. What is Paribodha Matram? Opposite conception of material existence. That means spiritual happiness. But in this Paribodha Matram, the first thing has been said about the Brahman. The first realization is Brahman realization. But even in this Brahman's realization, the variegatedness is not there. This is the first primary conception. It's a primary conception of impersonal Brahman. What is Brahman? The effulgence which comes from the body of Krishna. That's why even in Ishopanishad it has been said, "Oh Lord, you remove this effulgence. I am not able to see you. If you can remove this effulgence, then I can see you very nicely. And this effulgence is coming on the way of my seeing you." So that is how this impersonal Brahman is the first impersonal conception. At least it is beyond the matter. That is why Paribodha Matram has been given. These two words, Paribodha Matram, Brahma Saukhyam. And what is Brahma Saukhyam? At least understanding that I am not the body, I am soul, Brahman realization. But then beyond that, yes, we are all servants of Krishna, where individuality has been emphasized. Now let us see. Sathriyan niyamya yatayo yamakarta hetim jauyu swaradiva nipanakha nitra nipanakanitramindraha. Small verse. Sathriyan niyamya yatayo yamakarta hetim. Artificial mental speculation or meditation, niyamya, controlling, yataha, the mystics, yamakarta hetim, the process of spiritual culture. Jayu are given up, swarata, fully independent, eva as, nipana, well, kanitram, trouble for digging, indra, the controlling demigod supplying rains. In such a transcendental state, there is no need for artificial control of the mind. mental speculation or meditation as performed by the Gyanis and the Yogis. One gives up such processes as the heavenly king Indra forgoes the trouble to dig a well. So when a person gets pure devotional service, the transcendental loving service for Lord, then he doesn't have to undergo the process of jnana and yoga. The jnana is giving a lot of difficulties to the body to just understand that anyhow, I am not the body. To understand I am soul, they give a lot of difficulty to the body. And the yogis, they try to concentrate on the impersonal Paramatma. Now, beyond that are the devotees who want to serve Krishna. They serve Krishna under the guidance of pure devotees. When a person is sheltered, it becomes very nice to understand devotional service. So, what opportunity seeking to serve Lord is very important. So, when you serve Lord, naturally all the values come in that. The values of the Gyanis, the values of the Yogis, the values, moral values, everything is included. But devotional service, when we say, generally we think devotional service means let me go to temple and lie there for a whole day. Understanding the mission of our spiritual master. That is more important. If we understand the heart of our spiritual master, what he wants, then you can serve Lord anywhere and everywhere. You don't have to be whole day in the temple. Temple is only, you have to carry temple everywhere. Is it more wonderful, isn't it? Like Prabhupada carried the temple everywhere. That is sanskaras. Our sanskaras should never be lost. Most important is the sanskaras. Somebody was asking me today, why is it that there are so many devotees, but their children don't take it up? Why they are not taking up devotional service? They develop a type of hatred. I said, when we don't give spiritual values along with our sanskaras, the sanskaras speak a lot of things. We have to give spiritual values along with our sanskaras. When the sanskaras are taught properly, then they will understand the importance of our spiritual values. It's not that whole day we have to show face in the temple, we have to be in the temple, drag the children whole day, make them sit in the temple. The devotional service is like a wonderful, we can say, fruit salad. You should know how to present it. You cannot compel, you cannot drag. Never force children, especially because many times parents take up devotional service, but they children develop a hatred. Should not do that. Why here is said, Gyanis, Yogis, they are into impersonal. And what is personal then? Performing devotional service. How to perform devotional service? Under the guidance. That is why who is guiding also, he should also understand. There are certain difficulties which he has to understand. A grahastha means a lot of difficulties are there. How? Just because he's a guru, then he cannot say, come early in the morning, 3:30 and be in the temple whole day. No, he has to understand. Guru means one who understands the heart of the student, the difficulties of the student. Today morning class, Nityananda Prabhu says, Madai says, oh, I have done a lot of offenses. I beg forgiveness. Then Nityananda Prabhu says, I never considered your offenses as offenses because your actual offenses, because sometimes children also, a small boy, a small child, hits the parent. Parent doesn't take it as an offense. Sometimes the fighting scene happens between father and the son. I have considered you like my student, my son, because every student is a child for the guru. What is the relationship between guru and the student? The relationship is guru is always father, mother, and the student are the child, dependent on father and mother. So when sometimes some offensive way if the student speaks also, the father takes it very lightly. One should not do that. When Madai says, I did that. And the father says, Nityananda Prabhu says, no, I have not taken it as an offense. So that type of atmiyata should be there. What is the meaning of atmiyata? That type of closeness should be there. If that closeness is not there with the one's guru, he is my father, he is my caretaker, he is my guardian. If that type of love is not there with the guru, you will not work. It will only be a formal relationship. Why Prabhupada's students, disciples became successful? But they had that type of love for Srila Prabhupada. If that type of love for one's guru is there, then whatsoever it may come, one stands for the mission of his guru. So that is what devotional service has been emphasized in 2-3 verses here. Devotional service is more important than everything. So here it is said, in such a transcendental state, there is no artificial control of mind. There is no mental speculation. It's not artificially you're controlling, no. You're engaging your mind, your services in Krishna, in Krishna's feet. One gives up such processes, this artificial controlling the mind. What are Gyanis doing? Artificial. What are yogis doing? Mental speculation. Devotee is not interested in this. Devotee is just interested. He's not interested in digging the well also. So much of trouble it doesn't take. He foregoes the trouble to dig a well. So about that has been spoken here. About Indra has been spoken. Let us see. Vrindavan Leela Mataji read.
Hare Krishna. Sadharanyamya yatayo yamakarta hetim jahyu swarad iva nipana khanitram indraha. In such a transcendental state, there is no need of artificial control of the mind, mental speculation, or meditation, as performed by the Gyanis and Yogis. One gives up such processes as the heavenly king Indra forgoes the trouble to dig a well. Purport: a poor man in want of water digs a well and undertakes the trouble of digging. Similarly, those who are poor in transcendental realization speculate on the mind or meditate by controlling the senses. But they do not know that such control of the senses and achievement of spiritual perfection are simultaneously made possible as soon as one is factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Person, the personality of Godhead. It is for this reason that the great liberated souls also desire to be associated in hearing and chanting the activities of the Lord. The example of Indra is very appropriate in this connection. King Indra of heaven is the controlling deity or demigod for arranging clouds and supplying rains in the universe. And as such, he does not have to take the trouble to dig a well for his personal water supply. For him, digging a well for a water supply is simply ludicrous. Similarly, those who are factually engaged in the loving service of the Lord have attained the ultimate goal of life. And for them, there is no need of mental speculation to find out the true nature of God or his activities. Nor do such devotees have to meditate upon the imaginary or real identity of the Lord, because they are factually engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Lord's pure devotees have already achieved the results of mental speculation and meditation. The real perfection of life is therefore to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord.
Okay. The real perfection of life is therefore to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So who will engage us? Our spiritual master will engage us. Sashreyasamapi vibhur bhagavan yatosya bhava swabhava vihitasya tasata prasiddhi dehe swadhatu vigamenu vishiryamane vyomeva tatra purusho na vishiryate jahan sahi shreyasam, all auspiciousness, api, also vibhu, the master, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, yataha, because, asya, of the living entity, bhava, natural modes, swabhava, own constitution, vihitasya, performances, satah, all good work, prasidatah, ultimate success, dehe, of the body, swadhatu, forming elements, vigame, being vanquished, anu, after, vishiryamane, having given up, vyoma, sky, iva, like, tatra, thereupon, purushaha, the living entity, na, never, vishiryate, becomes vanquished, ajaha, due to being born. So Lord is a master of everything, Shreyasam, Vibhu, he is a master of all auspiciousness. So, why is a master of all auspiciousness? Because, yataha means because, whatever performances a person is doing, whatever actions are performed, in either of the material or spiritual existence, they are all awarded by Lord. Even the actions are also awarded by Lord. The strength to perform action is also awarded by Lord. That is why he is the ultimate benefactor. Then, every individual living entity is unborn, and therefore, even after the annihilation of the material elementary body, the living entity exists exactly like the air within the body. Even after the annihilation of the material elementary body, the living entity exists exactly like the air within the body. So, living entity is also unborn. So, even if there is no material body, but there is a subtle body, isn't it? Annihilation of the material elementary body. How is the living entity existing? Now just see this line is very important. How is the living entity existing even after the annihilation of the material elementary body? When we are talking about material elementary body, it speaks about the gross body. There is an elementary body. And there is something known as subtle body. The subtle body is existing. That is why when you are taking prasadam, why you have a salt. Sometimes people say, Mata, you eat too much of salt. I intentionally keep salt in my plate. Why? That is our culture. If you see the culture, when you serve, you have to keep salt. And this culture is not followed in any of our temples, which we should do that. If you go to any Matva Sampradaya, any Sri Sampradaya, the first thing they will serve you is the salt. If you know it, do you know this? Even if you go to Jagannath Puri, the first thing they'll give you is the salt. Then they'll give you one mirchi. Then they'll give you one limbu. Why this is there? So that the subtle bodies should not be put your plate. When you are taking prasad, there are so many people who are watching you. And there is an eye, because they don't have that body to eat. Desire is there. Some people have not got the gross body to facilitate their desire. So that is why it is free from the evil eyes. The first thing to serve in your plate is the salt, which actually in every temple they should do. Because even if the body is annihilated, this is moving like an air. You see what is written here? Exactly like the air within the body. Living entity exists. Like how the air is existing within the body, like that living entities are existing everywhere. In the morning when you enter the temple, why you do like this? You know, first the pujari has to do like this and then enter the altar. Because even ghostly people also come and worship Lord. They also come and worship Lord. And you cannot deal with them. You don't have the strength. That is why you say, Abhi ho gaya, tum log ka time ho gaya, chalo baho. Why in the night hours you don't go out so much? Generally, you don't take out the children also more. In those times, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock means you should come back home and read Ram Raksha. Why Ram Raksha Stotra? So that you are protected. Where this culture is gone? We just say we are doing devotional service, whole day we'll be outside. We have to teach culture to the children. Because we don't teach culture, we become complacent. In the name of devotional service, we are becoming complacent. 6:30, 7 o'clock, children should come home. They must chant Vishnu Sahasranam. In south, it is Vishnu Sahasranam. If you go in the northern side, it is Rama Raksha. Why? They are protecting the children from the negative elements. Night means negative elements are more. That is why the houses, Vishnu Sahasranam, Rama Raksha, chanting process, very, very important. Very important to perform. Very important to do this. To teach also. So that is what is given here. And Lord is the bestower of all the results, of all the processes. So the highest perfection of sadhana from him only it comes. What is the highest perfection of sadhana? To attain bhava stage. Bhava stage and then prema. Bhava is the first ray of light. We studied in Nectar of Devotion. Before coming to the stage of prema or attaining prema, it is a first ray. Like morning, you have the Arunodaya. It's the first ray of Suryodaya. So when the body dissolves after the departure of the dhatus, the jiva being unborn is not dissolved, like the ether in the body. The jiva is not dissolved. Jiva is there with the gross body. Now, only at the pure devotional service, even with the subtle body, when the subtle body is also purified, then the jiva crosses virja. That is how the consciousness becomes completely pure. So that is what is given here. Okay. Bindu, can you read? We'll take this as a last verse. We don't want to hurry because one verses are very important. It's tough also. So Tuesday we can end this portion of 7th chapter. Yeah, read.
Hare Krishna. सश्रेष्यशाम् अपि विभुर्भगवान् यतोऽस्य भाव स्वभावविषहस्य ततः प्रसिद्धिः देहे स्वधातु विगमे अनुविश्रयामाने व्योमेव तत्र पुरुषो न विषयत्यजः. Translation. The personality of Godhead is the supreme master of everything, auspicious because the results of whatever actions are performed by the living being is either the material or spiritual existence are awarded by the Lord. As such, He is the ultimate benefactor. Every individual living entity is unborn, and therefore, even after the annihilation of the material elementary body, the living entity exists, exactly like the air within the body. Purport. The living entity is unborn and eternal, and as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 2.30, the living entity is not exhausted, even though the material elementary body is vanquished. As long as the living entity is in the material existence, actions performed by him are rewarded in the next life or even in the present life. Similarly, in his spiritual life, also actions are rewarded by the Lord by the 5 kinds of liberation. Even the impersonalist cannot achieve the desired merging into the existence of the Supreme without being favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.11 that the Lord awards similar results as one desires in one's present life. The living entities are given freedom to make their choice, and the Lord awards them accordingly. It is the duty of everyone, therefore, to worship devotedly only the personality of Godhead to achieve his desired goal. The impersonalist, instead of speculating or meditating, can directly execute the routine devotional service of the Lord and thus easily obtain the desired goal. The devotees, however, are naturally inclined to become associates of the Lord and not merge in the spiritual existence as conceived by the impersonalists. The devotees, therefore, following their constitutional instincts, achieve the desired goal of becoming servitors, friends, fathers, mothers, or conjugal lovers of the Lord. The devotional service of the Lord involves 9 transcendental processes, such as hearing and chanting, and by performing such easy and natural devotional services, the devotees achieve the highest perfectional results, far, far superior to merging into the existence of Brahman. The devotees are therefore mm, never advised to indulge in speculating upon the nature of the Supreme or artificially meditating on the void. One should not, however, mistakenly think that after the annihilation of this present body, there is no body by which one can associate with the Lord face to face. The living entity is unborn. It is not that he is manifest with the creation of the material body. On the other hand, it is true that the material body develops only by the desire of the living entity. The evolution of the material body is due to the desires of the living being. According to the desires of the living being, the material body develops. So, from the spirit soul, the material body comes into existence, generated from the living force. Since the living being is eternal, he exists just like the air within the body. Air is within and without the body. Therefore, when the external covering, the material body, is vanquished, the living spark, like the air within the body, continues to exist. And by the direction of the Lord, because he is the ultimate benefactor, the living entity is at once awarded the necessary spiritual body befitting his association with the Lord. In the manner Swarupya, equal bodily features, Salokya, equal facility to live on the same planet like the Lord, Sashti, equal possession of opulence like the Lord, and Samipya, equal association with the Lord. The Lord is so kind that even if a devotee of the Lord cannot fulfill the complete course of devotional service unalloyed and uncontaminated, by material association, he is given another chance in the next life by being awarded a berth in the family of a devotee or rich man, so that without being engaged in the circle of material existence, the devotee can finish the remaining purification of his existence and thus immediately after relinquishing the present body, go back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. In this connection, detailed information is available in Bhagavad Sandarbha or Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada. Once achieving the spiritual existence, the devotee is eternally situated there, as already discussed in the previous verse.
So in Bhagavad Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami, Shad Sandarbha, Bhagavad Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami Prabhupada has described very nicely about this relationship with the Lord. Pahaitukiya Pratihata, if a person is performing without any motives, though he may not be successful in this life, he is going to continue in the other life. Devotional service is never lost. Neha Vikrama Nashas. Okay. So in this way, actually, here ends Brahmaji's instructions to Narada. Now Brahmaji is going to say that go and describe this devotional service to everyone, the glories of this devotional service to everyone. That is 50, 51, 52, if you see. Now Brahmaji instructing Narada to describe these activities of Lord to everybody. So whatever we get, we have to describe it to others also. That is how you share the prasadam, you share the mercy of Lord. So here, if you see the last 4 verses, it is Gaudiya Dhara, Brahma's Gaudiya Dhara. That means propagate Krishna consciousness to whomever you see. That's how you distribute the prasadam, the mercy, whatever you have got. Okay, any questions? No questions. Any questions? One chapter, the Vishakha Sindhu, Pavan Vaishnavi.